Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at Season 8 of Smallville. So in this season, Clark begins his job at the Daily Planet, while also accepting the idea of embracing his destiny. And he also begins to develop feelings for Lois Lane from this point onwards. So, with this season there's actually quite a bit to talk about because Season 7 marked the end of an era for Smallville. It was the last season to have Alfred Gough and Miles Miller as the showrunners. Whereas from this season onwards, the show would be taken over by Kelly Souders, Brian Peterson, Todd Slavkin, and Darren Swimmer. Plus, at this point, the show had a lot going against it. Declining ratings, a change in showrunners, a change in setting, and a slight revamp of the main cast. And yet surprisingly, the new showrunners pulled it off. I've seen some people consider this to be their favorite season in the entire show, and while it's not my absolute favorite, in my opinion, it's still one of the best. So let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk about the Daily Planet. This is the perfect setting for the last 3 seasons, because it only makes sense for Clark to be at the Daily Planet before becoming Superman. And given the fact that the Daily Planet is set in Metropolis, this gives him the perfect opportunity to adapt to the idea of becoming a superhero. And besides, 4 seasons of Clark's high school life was enough, 3 seasons of his post-high school life was enough, so if the show is going to keep going, it would only make sense to put him into the Daily Planet. I've seen some people criticize the show from this point onwards for daring to call itself Smallville when most of it is actually set in Metropolis. Well, technically Clark still lives on the farm, so it hasn't completely abandoned its roots. Also, this season is about as dark as the show can possibly get. People say Season 3 is the darkest season. I disagree. In this season, it felt like the show was really maturing in a lot of ways. The show is getting older, Clark is getting older, and for the most part, the audience is getting older, so yeah, it all makes sense to me. As for Clark, this is the season where the writers decided, you know what, let's just make him a superhero. He doesn't have the suit yet, mind you, but he's going out and fighting crimes, he's saving people, and he's referred to by the public as the Red and Blue Blur. Or simply the Blur later on, because every time he runs, he looks like a red and blue blur. And he does a great job in maintaining a strong reputation with the public, while simultaneously keeping his identity a secret. This is the first season where he and Lois are finally working together, and this really lays the groundwork for his romantic feelings for her. Plus, Tom Welling and Erica Durant have excellent chemistry. Some of the best Clark and Lois chemistry I've seen since Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. Chloe and Jimmy are planning to get married this season, but things don't go as smoothly as expected. And speaking of Jimmy, this was possibly the darkest iteration of Jimmy Olsen I've ever seen, and it was done extremely well. The things we learn about his past, the journey he goes on throughout the season, it's all great to watch. Oliver, aka Green Arrow, has to contend with a couple of things this season, such as being known in the public eye as a vigilante of sorts, his affiliations with a new character named Tess Mercer, who I'll talk about in a bit, and his differences with Clark over how to deal with Lex, who's gone missing, and that's also something I'll talk about later. So out of all the new characters introduced from this point onwards, Tess Mercer is possibly the most important one. Tess Mercer is played by Cassidy Freeman. She plays a very unusual role in Clark's journey. And in this season, being the new acting CEO of LuthorCorp, she's also on a quest to find Lex. There's also Davis Bloom, who's played by Sam Witwer. Most people recognize Sam Witwer for his incredibly versatile voice acting work in the Star Wars universe. He's a paramedic who spends a vast amount of time with Chloe and learns some interesting things about his past through Tess Mercer. And the episode Legion introduces the Legion of Superheroes, but in this show they're simply known as the Legion, and they consist of Rock, Imra, and Garth. The episode also features the Persuader, a DC villain, and he looked pretty cool. I've seen some people say he looks better than his comic book counterpart. There are some returning characters who make special guest appearances, such as John Jones, aka the Martian Manhunter. He's a cop now, which is pretty cool. And Supergirl makes an appearance in the episode Bloodline. And that episode is pretty cool because it expands on the Kryptonian mythology of Smallville. Now let's talk about the villains. Firstly, the main antagonist for this season is Doomsday. Now, this was Doomsday's first ever live action on-screen appearance. Doomsday's purpose is of course to kill Superman, or in this case Clark Kent. This was inspired by the Death of Superman comic book storyline. His arrival on Earth is quite interesting, and it even enriches the Smallville mythology quite a bit. And even the look of Doomsday was impressive. While he's not as huge as he is in the comics, at least they got the look right. And this was a costume, this wasn't just CGI. If it was CGI, it would have been garbage. I had my suspicions about the costume, I thought it would look terrible, but when we get to see the costume in its entirety, it looks incredible, considering this was made on a TV budget. There's even a small group of meteor freaks who are assembled into a team throughout the season. And they all come together in the episode Injustice, another episode directed by Tom Welling, and another solid episode of the show. One of these individuals so happens to be Parasites. I remember Parasite from a Superman comic I read years ago, and he's played by Brendan Fletcher, who I think is a very, very underrated actor. And while the finale was a little bit underwhelming, not just for me, but for a lot of people, it definitely got a few things right. You know, things aren't going to be the same for Clark going forward, and that final scene gave me chills. Now, I have two major problems with Season 8. Firstly, its treatment of Lex and Lana. Yes, Lana's still around. And the finale. The season may have its weaker episodes like Committed, which sounded good on paper but was kind of flawed in execution, though I still enjoyed it. It's still bearable compared to how Lex and Lana were treated this season. Lex is only in a couple of episodes this season, and the direction they decided to take him in, it wasn't the best choice. And he's not even played by Michael Rosenbaum, they had a stand-in. So yeah, I think that says a lot. And then Lana. Yeah, she's still here. Now, they finally gave her a send-off in Season 8. Finally. But they could have done this way sooner. There were opportunities in Seasons 3, 6, and 7. Thankfully in this season, she's relegated to being a guest star. And the send-off for her was quite interesting. However, she returned for a few episodes when she really could have only returned for just one. And any feelings that Clark had for Lois is just kind of undone thanks to her return, which was so frustrating. Thematically it makes sense, but this far into the show, it's too late for that. And because of all of this, it feels like the show was still holding back in some areas, even though it took a lot of steps forward. It took a few big steps back. And then there's the finale. The reason why it's my least favorite finale is because the final showdown between Clark and Doomsday was cut short. It was way too short. And I guess this was for budgetary reasons. Plus, they do a huge disservice to some characters, and we don't see them again after this. And apparently the reason for this is the network wanted to spend more money on special effects for the next season, given how ambitious Season 9 turned out to be. But because the ratings were declining, they had to make a compromise. And this meant taking some characters in the directions they take them. Financially it made sense, but story-wise, it was kind of unfair. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Season 8 of Smallville. Next time we're going to look at Season 9. So thank you all for watching, please be sure to like the video, share it and subscribe, hit the notification icon, be safe during this time, and I'll see you soon.